Today on the Innovators Insider Podcast, we are going to discuss the state of product design in 2021. It's going to be really insightful. We're going to have a ton of really interesting things to talk about. We're also going to talk about where we came up with the name for this podcast. It is a pretty clever name, I think. And Richard Doyle is going to introduce us to somebody who came up with the name. So Richard, how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good, Michael. Good to see you again. And this is going to be a great show. We came up with the idea of this podcast, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago. And between all the planning and preparation and getting things done, we finally got around to starting some recordings. But we didn't really have a name for this podcast. So what we did was we had a little contest internally at Onshape. And we asked the Onshape employees for their ideas, what our podcast should be named. And I was really amazed. We had 63 responses. And it turned out to be quite a chore to go through and weed those all down into one choice. We used a highly scientific method of yes, yes, no, until we came up with the name that we really liked. And so we didn't offer any real prizes for the contest. We kind of offered a booby prize, and that booby prize is an appearance on our podcast. So I would like to introduce the person who gave us our name. She's the Director of Demand Generation at Onshape. Please welcome Nina Kaliri.
Hi. Happy to be here.
Hi, Nina. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Fantastic. So you won the contest. Congratulations. You're here. This is it. This is your prize.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. But just real quick, how did you come up with that podcast name? Was it your first choice, or did you have a whole bunch of them that you thought of?
So I really just started writing down a bunch of words that I thought resonated with, who Onshape is and who our buyers are and what our products help them do. And I also have like a mild obsession with alliteration. So Innovators Insider was definitely my favorite submission of the ones I shared. I think also like the word innovator is very broad and can account for, a variety of different types of individuals and organizations.
Right. Well, I can tell you just for your, it moved quickly to the top of the list. It certainly came into the top 5 really easily. And then we voted it up and congratulations. So, and thank you, by the way. I think Michael will agree. We both really love the name. Totally. And we hope folks will appreciate it as well. So you are Director of Demand Generation at Onshape. You're talking to 2 engineers here who know very little about marketing. So could you share a little bit of your background and your role at PTC?
Yeah, sure. So prior to coming to Onshape, I was kind of riding this acquisition wave in the SaaS emergency notification space for about 12 years. We focused on a variety of different markets, K-12, healthcare, state and local government. So as an example, like if you have a child and you get a text message that they had a fire drill at the school, or there's a storm coming and your city is sending you a phone call, the companies that I worked for provided those types of solutions to those organizations. And
oh, wow.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I was a parent at one time and I did get one of those calls.
Yep.
It was a bad call, but I'll never forget it.
Yeah.
So
I always kind of joked that I, worked for 4 different companies, but my commute never changed because they just kept getting acquired. But, after marketing those types of solutions for those types of problems, active shooter, mass casualty event, Cat 5 hurricanes, it became a little doom and gloom. And then you layer COVID on top of that. And I just couldn't really do it anymore. So when this opportunity presented itself, I had to jump on it. And I mean, Onshape is literally helping businesses make cooler stuff faster. And how can you not get behind that? So that's why I made the decision to join the team.
And we're really happy to to have you here. And I know I speak for everybody in the company when I say that. So
thank you.
Yeah, Michael, you have anything for Nina?
Yeah. I mean, being somebody from outside the CAD industry and engineering, mechanical kind of work, it must have been quite interesting and almost shocking, seeing what people have to go through in competitive products and, the tools that people use now, people take it for granted, but just coming in from the outside, what were your thoughts, when you saw your first Onshape demo and, started to understand what people go through?
Yeah, I mean, this was a very drastically different industry than what I was used to, and even coming from a marketing perspective, predominantly in emergency notification and specifically in K-12, it was a very transactional business. Like, we traded customers between our competitors like yearly, back and forth over a little feature, a couple pennies on the dollar savings. So when I got here, I was a little bit shocked to learn that when we go to market, we're trying to displace vendors that have been used by our prospects for sometimes decades. And because we're disrupting the market on top of that with a cloud native solution, educating our prospects on the benefits of why making the switch is that much more important. And for me, it's a no-brainer as to why you wouldn't want to choose Onshape versus a file-based system, but it's still a very tough sale. So I was kind of shocked to know kind of like the stickiness that vendors have in the marketplace. But that's why also branding and marketing is so important.
Yeah, so that's we're so happy to have you doing that. You understand that world, and it's so maybe if you could share maybe a couple of things that you do, right? Generally speaking, to help people with Onshape. Yeah,
so I mean, demand gen on paper is what data-driven marketing strategy that helps bring awareness and interest to a company. But in simpler terms, we're really generating warm leads for sales. And we're doing that in a variety of different ways. We have email marketing programs, we have social media, paid search, syndicated content, and a lot of webinars. And then since I've been here, we're going to continue to try new and different channels to really, improve brand awareness and expand our reach. And there really is so much opportunity here. And the demand gen team and really the overall marketing team is amazing. They have really great energy, and it's been wonderful working with them. And I look forward to continue working with them.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what's to come for sure. But outside of work, like, you must do other cool, fun things. It seems like the team at Onshape is a pretty wild crew, and everybody has various interests. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anything I do is too wild, but I really love being outdoors. It really doesn't matter what I'm doing. In the summer, it's like paddleboarding and fishing, and I do a lot of hiking, and I'm also Italian, so because of my upbringing, I also love to cook and eat.
Nice.
So just
nice.
being active, really. But I guess that's the balance, right? Being active and then eating. So.
Yeah, you got to have both.
Yep.
And that's one thing we share in common. I'm not Italian, but I still love to cook and I love to eat. So.
That's great.
Well, Nina, really, I mean, this is so nice of you to join us today. I am so happy to have this podcast. I hope we have lots of people that enjoy the Onshape team, the Onshape product, and I'm just really excited to have you on the show. Richard, do you have anything else that you wanted to ask of Nina?
Just again, thank you, Nina. Thank you for the name of the podcast. Like I say, I absolutely love it. The more I see it, the more I like it, and it's something that I hope will be on the internet for years and years and years. And we'll always give you credit for coming up with that name. So we really appreciate it, and thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Great.
All right, next up, the professor is going to take a look at the state of product design, and he's got some really good information for you. So, Michael, take it away.
Absolutely, yes, and every year we work with independent companies that will help us survey real world people like you and me and Richard that have been involved in the engineering world or are currently working there, engineers, executives, project managers. And we recently published the State of Product Design or State of Product Development and Hardware Design 2021 report. So this report, it took the pulse of nearly 800 professionals all over the world. So it's really a wide base of people, and the data is really kind of shocking. Some of it's shocking because we run this report every year and some things haven't changed, right, in the perception of the market. And some things have changed, right? So I'd like to highlight a couple of those things in the report. I'm not going to read the whole report for you guys. I don't want to put you guys to sleep. Hopefully you're not listening to this in the car. I'm just kidding. But, there's going to be some interesting, shocking things I think you'll hear in this, but there'll be some things you'll be nodding your head to, like, oh yeah, I know that. So what I'm going to do, let me just, I'm going to share my screen here. And if all goes well, we'll see my web browser here. This is the State of Product Design report. We'll provide a link to this so you can get this on your own and read it. It's good reading. Certainly something that you'll be interested in, I think, because some of the things in here are common sense, and some of the things are things that you might not even think about, right? And one of the things that I took from this particular report was the wide gulf there is between the executive management teams for engineering departments and what engineers perceive as blockers or issues to their, productivity, right? If you're an engineer kind of at your CAD workstation coming in, doing your work, you do your work, 30 minutes later, crashes, whatever, you redo your work, that people take that for granted, that's just the way it is. And the engineering managers and executives that might not be as close to the CAD workstation don't realize this is actually happening. And this is a big cause for, you really should be taking notes here, I think, during this particular session. It's really important to kind of understand what's really going on and read this report for yourself. But let's just scroll down to one of the things. It's a really deep book. You can see it's 38 pages, but there are really a few things I wanted to highlight. One of the things kind of relates to the last thing in the book here, relating to our last guest that we had on last week, right, Richard? Allness, right? We all remember Allness.
Sure.
The way millennial and Gen Z engineers work is very different than you and I, Richard, right? I mean, when we, started in the world of engineering, we started with paper and then eventually CAD systems, and all of the things that we do today are all based on that kind of paper process. It's been digitized, right? So like when we went to from the drafting board to AutoCAD, for example, we were just replicating the exact same workflows of, how things worked. Even Windows, the file systems, the file directories are just, that's how things were built. We mimicked the paper world, but we had an opportunity to do better, and we have done better as a collective in the world of apps that are out there that people use today, right? If you have anybody in your life under the age of 22 and you show them like a file system, a Windows file system, on how to like put your documents in there, that they would look at you like you have three heads. But right?
They don't know what a file is. They've never seen a file. They're using Google Docs, and there's no such thing as a file. It's just there. The data is just there for them. It's
just there. You search for it, you find it, just like you Google, whatever you want on the internet. That's how they're finding their data in their Google Drive, in their Office 365, whatever cloud tool that people are using to store their data. That's how they're finding things. And I was reading a report separate from the State of Product Design report, kind of a little of an inception here going on. But we have, there was another report I was reading that educators, like professors in like rocket science and stuff, the kids are coming through, and I shouldn't say kids. These are, sophisticated engineers, postgraduate type people. And they just don't have any concept of the file system and the file directory. They've just always been used to the SaaS world and having tools. And that's what we're facing now. This is the generation coming into the industry. Like Alnus showed us last week, all these things, and not once did he talk about installing software and managing files. It was just live, on demand. Everything was in action. So on item number 8, if I just kind of scroll through to find the right page here. I know I had it ready to go. Yeah. And I'll just make this a little bigger so you can actually read it if you're following along on the YouTube version of the podcast. But you can obviously download this yourself. They have higher expectations for work flexibility. They want instant access. They don't want to have to remember to take a flash drive out, copy the files off of their computer at work, bring them home to their laptop. Now, if they can even run CAD on their laptop, right? Because, it only requires a Windows workstation and all that, right? This is it's similar to the, kind of analogy of once you've gone to like streaming services, Hulu, Netflix, things like that, you're not going to put in a DVD. I have a library of Blu-ray discs, DVDs. Do I watch them anymore? No. I can just get it instant, on demand. That's how people want things now. And once you have that, you're just not going back. And in the world of engineering software, because it's such complex software, it's just taken a longer time, I think, to get to that state, right? It's ironic because I think computer-aided design actually helped invent the infrastructure and technology today. Some of the oldest companies in CAD were instrumental in the development of graphics cards, all this stuff, right? But it got kind of lax and lazy, and we just kind of kept going with what we had, and we didn't rethink things until the platform of the cloud existed. So that's one thing that I think you would really, really like dive into on this article, because you are going to encounter this. There are young people coming up, and their expectations of work are very different than the work of when I first started. 7 a.m. showing up at the office, booting up your computer, go there Monday to Friday, right? Things are different now. People work remote. We need more flexibility, right? So that's one thing I think that was really interesting in this particular state of product development report. The other thing, this kind of is near and dear to my heart. If you're seeing my picture here on the YouTube broadcast, I don't have much hair left. And it's because I tore most of it out, being a PDM / PLM manager for a couple of years. I worked, as you know, I worked in the world of providing the software, but I also worked in the world of using and implementing the software in the commercial business. And PDM and PLM users say their systems slow down product design, right? The systems are there to help manage this huge avalanche of files that's generated. Let me just go to the actual page that talks about PDM. Richard, have you had the pleasure of being involved in PDM?
Yes, twice. So early in my career, we implemented a package that was marketed as an out-of-the-box solution for our particular CAD software. Mm-hmm. That didn't go so well. In fact, they ended up having to fly one of the engineers out from their home office to our office to reprogram the product so that it would actually recognize the files that we wanted it to recognize. They did a good job of fixing it up, but we ended up not using that solution because it didn't meet our needs at all. My second time was just as bad. Fortunately, I have a great head of hair, so I only pulled out a few strands. But I was the PDM implementer / administrator. We actually ended up having to pay somebody to do the initial installations and setup of that product. Then I had to spend weeks actually customizing it for our use. And when it was all done and I got very excited about rolling it out to the company, within 3 weeks, the engineers refused to use it. It was just too burdensome. It took too much time away from them, and they didn't see any benefit at all.
It really is the dirty secret of PDM is that people won't use it. You pay six figures sometimes for the software to implement, set up. Maintenance of it is very expensive and time consuming. And you do all this work, and the engineer will. Yeah, I'm not shooting down engineers here. I mean, this is just the way I've seen it in the last 20, 30 years with PDM. They'll do all their work. They're doing their work on their local hard drive because that's how PDM works. It's working in a local cache. And then they're going to check it in at the end of the project or maybe at the end of the month. They're not checking it in. You know, when I say check in, that's when the file moves from the hard drive to the vault, as they call it in PDM.
Sure.
But they're holding on to that until they're ready, because every time you do a check-in and a check-out operation, it takes a lot of time, especially in a larger design.
Well, and you have to make sure that your revisions don't change and your versions don't change. I mean, there's just so much administration just checking something in using a file-based PDM system that, like you say, the engineers won't use it because they have better things to do.
Right. Right. And it's there, obviously, to prevent people from stepping on each other's toes. Right. You know, that's one of the primary reasons why people buy a PDM, is to prevent people from accidentally overwriting something without the right permissions. But, you know, it's been one of these necessary evils or frenemies of the engineering world. Right. It's just nobody loves. I mean, you know, I've actually met a couple of people that love their PDM, you know, that are PDM managers. But, you know, it's a very rare thing. Right. Like here's the stats right here, right? You know, it was less user friendly than they thought it would be, and that's, you know, a very large percentage of people in this survey agreed or strongly agreed with that statement, right? Yep. You know, the delays, cumbersome to use and delays, right? Like I always thought it was funny when I worked as a SolidWorks reseller, we would print out this beautiful kind of an you know, sealed sheet that we would hand out to all of our customers, and it was it was like the Rosetta Stone of how to understand all the symbols and hieroglyphics of what the symbols are in PDM. Like, oh, if there's an up red arrow or up green arrow and a red down arrow and there's an equal symbol, and the lock is unlocked or unlocked, you know, this is what it means, right? It was like all these like hieroglyphic symbols. You had to be like an Egyptologist to understand how to run your PDM and what these symbols mean, right? And you know,
and I think that's why what you're seeing right here on the screen. I mean, average 50% of people that are using a file-based PDM system don't like using it.
Yeah, it's just not something that's fun. I mean, yeah, work isn't supposed to be all you know, candies and nuts, and yeah, I can't remember the phrase that my old boss used to tell me about. But it's, you know, it's not fun all day. But you don't want to bang your head against the screen, you know, every time you have to do something. And I know that happened. I've seen it. I've lived it. You know, waiting for that checkout operation to happen. You know, heaven forbid, you know, the PDM file servers in San Francisco and you're in London trying to check out a file. Good luck. Yeah. I mean, that's going to take you know, a whole lunar cycle.
Yep. or how about replicating a data set?
Right. And replicating it and you know, just creating more and more files that don't need to be created. Like with PDM, every time you check it in, it's checking in like all these copies of files, and the IT department's coming to you and like saying, "What are you doing? You got, you know, terabytes of data on these hard disks, and you know, we need to offline them and put them in the cold storage." So you put it in the cold storage, and then the engineer comes back 3 weeks later and says, "I need Rev, you know, B of this design." Well, good luck getting it, because now you have to place an IT ticket, get the backup tapes, put the file back in, test the restore procedure. Guess what? They've never done a restore, so it takes 3 or 4 weeks to figure out how to do it, because the restore in PDM is very different than the restore in Microsoft. I need to breathe. But this is what people live with every day. It's maddening. And in the moment I saw Onshape, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't do this anymore. I mean, I refuse to deal with these issues of, you know, literally, I mean, at the moment I saw Onshape, I pretty much quit my job as a PDM administrator and joined the company. You know, I bought one for myself, but then a month later I joined the company, right? So it was like, why deal with these issues? I mean, it's not fun, and it's not good for your health if you're banging your head against the screen. Your blood pressure's probably going up. It's
and all that in turn isn't good for the company.
No, and that's the most important thing. Like, it's, the company is, sometimes not even aware that these issues exist, right?
That's been proven out by the survey that you just showed a couple of minutes ago.
Right. Yeah. The executive teams just have no idea that it's this bad. And, if they had any idea that this was happening, I think they would be wholeheartedly in favor of helping make their company more efficient, save money, not have local servers that they have to take care of and spend lots of time and money feeding. It's really, like, I love this graphic right here, like that Richard mentioned here. I love the little turtle guy here. 1 out of 2 on-premise PDM users say their software is cumbersome and leads to delays in the process. And that's a big percentage of people, right? And, it's really just sweeping the problem under the rug is the other stat right there with the unhappy Mac computer face there. So really, really something that, luckily, when you go to a cloud native system like Onshape, you have PDM from day one, and you never have to check in and check out. Everything's more real time in the system, right? You can open things up in your iPad, iPhone, MacBook, wherever, whenever, as long as you have a very basic internet connection, you can just get to. I'm sure you've probably opened up your data, remotely, Richard. Like, you have a tiny house project that, have you ever like popped open that house not in your home office here?
Yeah, during a break in a poker tournament, in fact, I was talking to a gentleman that I was playing with, and I forget how the whole thing came up. I think we were talking about tiny houses or something, and I said, "Yeah, I'm designing one." He said, "Oh, wow, that sounds pretty cool." And I whipped out my phone and showed it to him, and he was just blown away. He wasn't a CAD guy or a designer or a potential customer. Just a random guy I was playing poker with, but he was really impressed that I could pull that up on the phone and spin it around, show section views, my named views. I have several of those in the tiny house. So, yeah. So, and it's a lot of fun to see the look on people's faces, especially non-CAD people, to see the look on their face when you pull something like that up.
Yeah. I didn't mean for this to be an Onshape commercial or anything like that. It's just I'm trying to draw some parallels between what is the norm out there and what is possible, right? Yeah. And, this is also true with things, other, SaaS cloud native applications, right? I mean, people use Google Docs, people use Salesforce.com. You're not expected to download files of your client records when you're using Salesforce.com. You go to the web browser, you sign in, you're authenticated, you have double authentication usually for 2-factor. It's very secure, and then you sign in and you have access to your customer information, and you can keep track of records and calls and things like that. That's a cloud native system, right? You didn't have to worry about juggling files. You just access the system securely, and you're done, right? You do your work.
Yep. Cloud is the way to go. One of the this might be a little bit off topic, but one of the things that I like best about using Onshape in the cloud is that I can open several different tabs, as opposed to my previous software where I would open a bunch of windows, which would then slow down the entire project. Whereas now I can flip between tabs in a browser and work on any of my projects, and all of them are right there on the screen. Nothing's slowing anything down. So.
Exactly right. You can see what I'm doing here, right? I'm just I have a document here, and this is might as well it's a good segue, I think. This is the model of the week.
All right.
Here, this is my colleague Bradley Salm. He's actually out on paternity leave right now.
Well, congratulations to Bradley.
Yeah, he's a proud new dad, and he's got a beautiful family. And he's really an interesting cat. He's built he's got this really cool Ender Pro Ender 3 Pro 3D printer, and he wanted to build a cabinet. He has a space in his office. He's working from home just like most people are. At least they work from home sometimes. And he built this design. He shared it with the public, of course, right? So you can find this. We'll put a link to this so you can take a peek at it later on. This is a public Onshape document that he made. But the thing that Richard was just talking about with the tabs, right? Right, you can have tabs in an Onshape document. Like Onshape documents can have multiple kind of things in it, or you might want to use the Chrome tabs or whatever web browser you're using, right? To kind of switch between, the different things that you're working on, right? So this doesn't take up any more like memory, or anything. It takes up a little bit, but it's not like trying to open up 5 sessions of some other CAD system that you've installed on your computer.
Sure. Well, and typically I work on several different projects at a time, and I don't want to close one project and go open another one. So it's simple enough to just open a new tab.
Exactly. Yeah. Bradley's done a good job on this document too. You can see that, there's some exploded views using the automatic exploded view tool. You can see I'm looking at this view only. I'm not even signed into my Onshape account. That's a nice thing about public documents. You can just, look at them, and, you can, if you sign into Onshape using whatever account type you have, you can take a copy of a public document and use it as like a learning tool, and understand things like, Bradley's done a great job on this by, putting in the mates to make this all work. We've got the bill of materials is all here, right, inside of the document with all of the, stock sizes for each of the pieces of material. Cause he's documented this. He's actually built this. He's got all the, images, in here of the construction, of it. So he just went out to Home Depot or whatever, and
all his parts have descriptions, and a very well set up document.
Exactly. So, kudos to Brad. Congrats on the family, and definitely check out this Onshape document. Maybe you have an Ender 3 Pro printer, and you now have the plans to build your own workstation, just like Bradley. So yeah, I really liked that one.
That's a good one.
Speaking of other kind of user activities, Richard, any cool user group updates that you'd like to share?
I just might have something that I can talk about. Let's get that up on the screen. So I think everybody probably knows by now that our Onshape user groups are 100% online. That started with the pandemic, obviously, but we came to realize that it was the best way to reach as many people as possible all over the world. There's still a casual way to improve your design skills. You can still informally network with industry peers. We start all of our online meetings 15 minutes early for some networking and general banter. So I hope you can join us. We will be putting links in the YouTube comments for the user group network, and you'll be able to see the calendar there. We've got a fun little project going on. Finish Richard's tiny house. I think I mentioned last time that I love the idea of living in a tiny house, so I've started to design one in Onshape. But I'm really not good at home building, so we've asked the community to help me finish the tiny house. And it doesn't have to, this can be a lot of fun too. We're looking for things like sleeping areas, sleeping solutions, kitchen areas. But, if you had a heating system that consisted of a magnifying glass and 2 dissimilar metals that produced an electrical charge that I could throw into a generator, we'll have some fun with that as well.
Nice.
I did record a video if you want to learn more about the Onshape user groups and what we do and what we plan to do with them. You'll find that video on the user group homepage. And like I say, we will be adding links to the YouTube comments. I'm really excited to announce that we've got a great meeting coming up. Our Women Who CAD Onshape user group. The keynote speaker will be Anouk Whiprecht. She's a fashion tech designer, roboticist, technologist, innovator, you name it, she's done it. She is the creator of the famous robotic spider dress, a very interesting piece of fashion that uses IoT and motion as kind of a personal space dress, if you will. So if somebody gets too close to Anouk, the little spider arms kind of reach out and say, hey, back off just a little bit.
Social distancing.
Yep. She's also one of the newest members of the BattleBots team, Ghost Raptor. I got to meet the team a few weeks ago. Actually got to attend the World Championships here in Las Vegas. They'll be shown starting in December, I believe, is when those episodes will be shown. So I really can't give anything away. Now, based on our podcast release schedule, you need to sign up for this meeting today. Hopefully you are listening to this podcast early in the morning. It is a Zoom meeting. You can head over to the user group pages. Again, we'll have those links for you, and you can go ahead and register that meeting. It should be a good one. We'll also have a couple of technical sessions as well, and we'll have our 15-minute networking opportunities too. So that's what's coming up in the user group network, Michael.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Is there anything else, I think, on the agenda today, Richard?
I think that's it for today. Yeah. I also wanted to mention with the user group update, something that's really exciting. The last couple of meetings, we've actually had user presentations. And I want to give a shout out to several of those folks. Sam Holland just did an absolutely wonderful tips and tricks presentation. Chad Stolfus, who we will be interviewing soon on this podcast, feature script expert, has done several presentations for us at these user group meetings. We got to hear from Ian Gardner at AvidBots about their documentation and design process. And Matthew Stacy, a regular at our user group meetings and a guy that kind of floats all over the world. He joined us, did a great presentation on very basic data management. He actually did that presentation from Cabo San Lucas. He was on vacation and did that for us. So we really appreciate the presenters at the user group meetings. Of course, we have our internal presenters, our technical service engineers that present. But I really love it when users step up and do those presentations. So
that's awesome. That's what keeps the community going.
Yep, exactly. So we've got a great episode coming up next time as well. I think, Michael, you'll be talking about the total cost of ownership.
Yeah. I've been doing a deep dive into this, getting the checkbook out and trying to figure out how much it costs to actually run and maintain a on-premise CAD system. I've done this in the past, but it's going to be. I'm going to try to put a fun take on it because it's such a dry topic. It'll be like we're in the supermarket of infrastructure and just doing a complete we're going on a spree, shopping spree. So
well, and I'm sure it'll be fun. And as far as it being a dry topic, I think people are really gonna enjoy what they see, the results that they see out of this.
All right, yeah, it's going to be shocking.
Yep. Hopefully we'll definitely have another model of the week. And like I mentioned just a second ago, verified this today, we will have Chad Stolfus on, and we'll be talking about his work with FeatureScript and the kind of work that he does at his company. And I will also provide a recap of the Women Who CAD meeting. Like I say, I think that's going to be a really great meeting. I think people are going to really enjoy Anouk's keynote, and I'll provide an update to that. Other than that, great show today, Michael. I think it went very well. I love the interview with Nina. And we've got a name for our podcast. That's outstanding.
That's right. Let's go out there and keep on innovating. The Innovators Insider Podcast. So once again, thank you all. Thank you so much for joining us. Spread the word about Onshape and the Innovator Insiders Podcast. It's something that's near and dear to both of our hearts.
Yep, and don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button.
Great. See ya.
Take care.